I'm MarzGurl.
And I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 6 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover episode 6 of City Hunter, titled No Romance for This Actress, The Last Shot for Hope.
I think we're finally getting to a point where City Hunter is, like, comedic. At the pace that I really feel like it's supposed to be at.
Well, definitely compared to last week's episode, it was a lot of doom and gloom and a very heavy episode, especially that second half. So I feel like the writers especially were like, come on guys, punch it up a little this week. Let's have some jokes in there. Let's have some comedy. Let's do it up.
Well, that might be true, but it kind of stayed at that pace. Kind of for the remainder of the series.
Yeah, and I kind of prefer it this way, to be honest, to be funnier. It's not like I don't like the action in the show. I love the action, but I think it works best when it leans towards comedy.
Well, it almost needs to be a comedy, because if it's not a comedy, then we're taking Ryo absolutely seriously and saying that, like, all of his sexual assaults is totally okay, but making it comedic is more like, oh, well, it's not even real, it's real stupid, this guy gets punished for all of it anyway. It's much more appropriate as a comedy.
I would say so. So this week we're going to be dealing with an actress who has something of a death wish, which is something that kind of comes up over the course of the series multiple times, where Ryo ends up having to help somebody who doesn't really feel like they want to go on living. We already saw this back in the Boxer episode, now we're dealing with it again here. So our person that we're helping for the week as City Hunter is going to be an actress by the name of Yumiko Sato. And we actually see a character come back that we weren't expecting. The Falling Light from last week's episode makes a return appearance here at the very beginning of the episode to almost fall on Yumiko's head.
Right, so it looks like it was all just a big accident, but was it really? Because as we learn here in a little bit, accidents like this on set, where she's been filming these high-profile films, seem to have been happening over and over again.
At least 3 incidents have been reported. Yumiko apparently is such a professional at her job as an actress, she doesn't want shooting to be interrupted, so she's decided not to let the studio call the cops, which, I mean, an actress has that much capability to tell the producer, don't call the cops when there's a problem on hand? Okay.
Well, we gotta back it up a little bit, because we need to talk about just how enamored Ryo is with this actress.
Right, so we're given the context that apparently Yumiko is a high-profile enough actress that there's posters of her everywhere. Everybody knows who she is. Ryo, like you said, is a big fan. So much so that at the beginning of the episode, the first thing we see him do is going out of his way to steal one of these poster standees of her. He has to make a distraction to make everybody look away while he makes off with his standee, which, mind you, that's a criminal offense.
It is, but this is a full-length standee, like it's a good, life-size, 5-foot-something standee.
And, I think we looked this up, Ryo's over 6 feet tall, so, that's a big poster that he's taking home with him.
It is really big, and unfortunately, he doesn't make it more than 2 seconds in the door before Kaori has destroyed the poster.
And that's the unfortunate part for this episode. And I know we said that before, last episode going into this one, that this is now the Ryo and Kaori show. Unfortunately, this first scene at the beginning is all we're getting of Kaori this week.
It takes a little bit for her importance to really kick in, so this unfortunately is not the only time, it's not the only episode in which this occurs, but she just kind of says, why are you sad about this poster? It's not like you're gonna need it when you're gonna go be standing next to her for this job that you've been asked to do anyway, and he's like, huh?
Now, she is already filling in the role of being the Makimura of the show, since, her name's Makimura too.
She's assigning the assignments.
She's informing Ryo that they have been hired as City Hunter. Her job here in this one scene is to inform Ryo that he has been hired as City Hunter to be a bodyguard for Yumiko because of all these accidents that have been happening on set. And even then, when he gets to the offices, you still see everything being played for comedic effect. Like, hey, I want payment in posters up front right now. These posters are hotter.
Are you gonna be able to give me a private screening of her movie when it comes out?
Because we all know what he's gonna do in that theater by himself.
Alone. And the guy doesn't actually give him a straight answer. He's just like, Mr. Saiba. And then we cut, and so...
And you can either take that one of two ways. Either he's like, oh man, he must really love the movie we're making here. He's that dedicated. Or, oh no, we hired another one of these guys.
This guy's a freak.
And he is.
Yeah.
He is. He's a Mokkori freak. And he's assigned there to Yumiko, saying that he's playing the role of her new manager. And of course, that all that means is he's going straight for the panty drawer. Right away.
I mean, the second he walked into her house, or her room, excuse me.
The second he walked into her dressing room.
The second he walks into her dressing room, jumps straight into her luggage full of underwear.
Yes, and he's very happy to see it. And it is here that we are starting to learn that, one, Ryo is very protective of her in more than one way because of the scenes she's having to film here for this movie, which we're told that the title, it's called Murderous Intent at Midday. That's not a title that really rolls off the tongue.
It's really not, but I've heard worse.
I have heard worse. There's a lot of worse movies out there made for cheaper budgets, I assume.
In any case, so, like, she already is kind of weird because he's rummaging through her underwear. She's right there looking at him, and she's just like, huh? Alright, I guess. Like, she's just kind of blowing him off. And also, she really lays it on letting him know it's not me as a person doing these love scenes that are happening in this film. This is the character doing these love scenes. I don't know why you're getting all upset over the character doing these love scenes.
Which is something to be said about, you know, being a professional actor or actress, that you are able to separate yourself from the role that you're playing. You may be doing and saying things that you as a person might not do in everyday life, but that's the whole point of acting. But the thing they're trying to impress upon the audience here is that for all of these roles that she's really good at for love scenes or professing love, she's a good actress, but she actually has no real world experience. She does not...
So they say
that she doesn't have the knowledge of what it means to love somebody like that, which of course we're going to see more of later. And then we get to the super topical portion of the episode where we see that her character for this movie, her character's name is Kyoko. Yumiko is playing a character named Kyoko. Kyoko, the character, needs a weapon, which Ryo sees there as a 6.86 Smith & Wesson, which of course Ryo takes upon himself to go ahead and check out. And being the firearms professional that he is, Ryo sees that the gun
on a movie set
is loaded with real bullets. And when we both saw that, we both went, like, we don't try to plan these episodes out to be super topical.
Time is a flat circle, Josh.
It kind of is.
You know, more than 30 years have passed since this episode, and a sort of similar event has now occurred within the last month or two.
Yeah, you might have heard about it.
Yeah.
And so that actually is a recurring thing in this episode, that the guns on set are filled with live ammunition.
When I first watched this episode, I was like, oh, that's real funny. That's so crazy. That would never happen.
And then all the news came out about that Rust movie, and then we watched this episode and we're like, ooh, wow.
Yeah, now I can't separate it.
You can't.
I will never be able to separate it now.
And
crazy.
And for what it's worth, all that does is speak to the fact that you need to have a firearms professional on set.
Really, Rust would not have run into all of this trouble and all of the horrible things that happened if they just had Ryo Saiba on set.
It would seem that way.
Yeah.
At least for the sake of what this episode is presenting. Now, at least Ryo had the wherewithal to empty out all of the bullets out of the gun.
But then the actress just went and put one of them right back in.
And we're going to see why in a little bit. But to that end, Ryo takes it upon himself to continually be protective of her, but that means he's going to be ruining takes. He's ruining them left and right. He's ruining cake. He's ruining perfectly good cake.
See, some of them are like, well, I need to check to make sure that she's actually safe. So the cake, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then other times he's just kind of being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, just really interrupting these takes like, you're not gonna kiss her without my permission.
So I'm gonna tell on myself here, because for whatever that's worth, when I was in high school, I was hosting a variety show, basically a talent show that the high school was throwing on. And I was the MC along with 3 of my friends. And one of my friends, who happened to be, a girl, we were doing this kind of skit vignette to introduce an act. And for the act, we had to pretend that she was hitting on me and I was being oblivious. And from the audience, my dear old parents in the front row, they couldn't separate that this was an act, that this is play, this is make-believes, and my mother yells from the front row, "Not with my son, you don't!"
Oh, no.
So there's elements of that here, of people not being able to separate the art from the actor, and also just stepping in because you think you're trying to protect the chastity of one of the actors working on the show.
Okay, like, we can't tell what's fake and what's real. All right, cool.
That's funny. So we see after this that the problem with the real bullets being loaded into the guns is still happening, not just for Yumiko's gun, but for the other guns on set.
Machine guns as well.
Machine guns and handguns. And some of the actors are like, you can't beat the real thing.
Yeah, just keep going. Like, I'm remembering the manga, and they're like, oh man, this is way better for the camera, just keep shooting. And even the director kind of says this in the anime as well. Is like, oh, well, we may as well just keep rolling if this is gonna happen.
Right, and there's something to be said about that. There's another scene where that comes up later, but it just kind of doesn't ring the same, again, for the same reasons that we just mentioned.
Not more than 30 years later, it doesn't.
Yeah. But we find out that the reason this is all happening is because this has all been set up as part of some grand master plan that one person has put into place to go ahead and take out Yumiko, and we find out who this is. It's our new character that we're going to see a lot more of over the course of the series, Umibozu.
Yeah, Umibozu.
Now, Umibozu is a character that I mentioned in episode 0, is a character who has something of a past with Ryo. They are aware of each other.
Yeah, and I think that becomes at least a little clear throughout the course of this episode. They're having a conversation with each other from the other side of a wall, and they both have, like, RPGs.
They've got
lined up,
bazookas ready, aimed at each other,
and they're just kind of gauging how serious one another is about firing at one another, and they both realize, no, we know each other well enough, and we are both serious about this, so maybe we better both stop.
Yeah, we're both gonna back down for today, but we're going to go back at it again. And this is the beginning, our first scenes of a rivalry that goes on and on between the two of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like part rivalry and part neither one of them wants to admit that it's actually a friendship.
Yeah, I would say that, like, it's the most friendly rivalry you can think of, aside from the times they're always trying to kill each other.
Right.
And it's usually Umibozu who starts it.
Well, the only reason he starts it is because he's hired to do it. He doesn't necessarily go out of his way to try to murder Ryo, usually.
But if he's given the opportunity, a professional reason to do it, he will absolutely take that offer.
Oh yeah, he doesn't really question it all that hard, unless it goes totally against some other principle. This topic's gonna come up later, then he'll question it and maybe not go through with it. I mean, Ryo doesn't end up dead by Umibozu's hands by the end of this series. I'm just letting you know right now. That does not happen.
We need our main character to live.
Yeah.
Now, we also have to explain why Umibozu is here. Turns out, Yumiko hired him.
To murder herself?
Yes. So about that death wish we mentioned, it turns out Yumiko had a boyfriend by the name of Keiichi who apparently died in the Middle East.
As a journalist
the year prior, and she's just been so overcome with grief, she has lost the will to live. And so, to that end, she has hired Umibozu to take her out here on the set.
Because she just wants, like the most dramatic on-screen death? Because she wants to do it during a high-profile filming of a movie.
Like, that's real dramatic for you. Like, I get that she's an actress, but it's like, no, I want to die dramatically. It's
like nah. if you want to die, I mean,
there's better ways of doing it if you're gonna go. But there's better ways of handling your grief. And Ryo does this thing that he's done before again of, hey, if you make me your boyfriend, you don't have to worry about it. It's gonna be cool. And she's like, I'm gonna take you up on that.
I'll think about it.
And she just kind of stays there for the rest of the episode of, I'll think about it.
Yeah, she's really in I'll think about it territory almost the entire time. There's a moment where she takes out the locket where she's got her boyfriend's picture and she thinks, all right, I'm finally gonna throw it away and I'm gonna forget about him. It's been over a year and I'm gonna move on, and she just can't do it. She just can't do it.
Now, Ryo is very perceptive with that the locket that she's holding on to is her representation of not wanting to let go of him, and thereby not wanting to let go of her wish to die, basically to join him. And
I mean, I think it's real sad to have to think about losing a memento of somebody, but if that memento is forcing you to be stuck in your grief, then I guess I understand getting rid of it.
Like, process your grief the way you need to. Even if it's only been a year, that's still going to feel real raw. For sure. But if you can see that after a certain amount of time, holding on to something is doing you more harm than good, then maybe, yeah, it's a good idea to maybe not destroy it, but at least put it away.
Right.
So to that end, Ryo is trying to help, although he also wants to help himself. Do some mokkori.
Which, maybe, dude, not quite the right time?
Yeah, like, especially when they're grieving. That's the thing I can never get over, when Ryo hits on somebody who's clearly grieving someone. It's like, come on, man, the assault's enough, but then, like, give them some space, man.
Yeah, let them decide whether or not they want to come to you. Just give them that chance, man. Just a little bit of time.
But in the meantime, let's get back to guarding you. Next scene, the next day, we have a house fire, which...
That could not possibly go wrong, given the rest of the situations that have been happening on set.
Well, see, this is the one that I find the weirdest out of all of these, because most of this has been pretty consistent of using the live ammunition, but this is the one thing that Umibozu has set up to try and take out Yumiko that makes the least amount of sense, because he only used string.
Yeah, that's true, because if it's a house fire, then that string's gonna just burn right off.
Like, we see it and it's like, oh man, look at the size of that fire. And admittedly, fire is still a thing that in Hollywood you use in under very controlled circumstances, because CG wasn't really that big in the 80s, so they would use a real fire like you would on a Hollywood set.
Sure, but you don't, like, put your talent inside the house fire?
I mean, not without multiple ways out.
Mind you, also, this is Japan, and they sure did a lot of things in their films that I would consider extremely dangerous.
Well, yeah, especially when it came to special effects filming. There's multiple instances from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even the early 90s of putting at least their stunt people right up in explosions and flames. And
also animals. Bad time for animals in Japan and movies.
Disclaimer, no animals were hurt in the drawing of this episode.
Right.
But here, yeah, it's weird that Umibozu left it all to string. Like, he didn't use, like, a crowbar or a lock on the door. He tied it.
I mean, it worked. So
I mean, as far as, Ryo being able to throw a knife at it to let her get out.
But I am saying, like, if I'm Umibozu, and if I'm getting paid a whole bunch of money, I'm just gonna be like, haha, at least this works. And just tie a string around the door and walk away with all this money.
I mean, I guess if you're being cost effective,
yeah,
then string is a lot cheaper than bullets.
Yes.
Okay, so he was trying to save money that day.
He was on a budget, and he wanted the most amount of money for the least amount of effort.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the very least, Ryo gets her out and she's like, hey, did we get the shot? Yeah, we got the shot. All right, that's a wrap for today. I'm going home. Like, that's that whole Tom Cruise thing of, like, when he was filming that last Mission Impossible movie and he broke his leg on that jump.
Yeah, but did we get the shot?
Did we get the shot? Great, I'm going to the hospital. Like, that's that kind of energy.
Right.
So that's real. So we find the next day, there has been multiple attempts on Yumiko's life. Ryo has been hired to protect her. Umibozu hired to kill her. But they're gonna have lunch. They're just chilling out at lunch, and Umibozu eats like Goku.
I mean, he's a very large man.
He is a very large man.
He's gotta really keep up his physique, so he's gotta eat like he's keeping up his physique.
Like, to me, I was always like, mind you, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Whoever they got for the live action City Hunter, the French one, the guy they got for Umibozu looked exactly like him.
He's incredible. Yeah.
But to me, I was like, if they were going to redo it here at all, to me, he's like this big, hulking, like Dave Bautista kind of guy.
You think he's like Bautista and not like The Rock?
Or The Rock, either or.
Like, because Umibozu's a fairly dark dude, and, like, I just don't see Bautista.
They both have their merits when it comes to comedy, which you can see in different movies of theirs. Is just, for my money, for budget's sake, you got to pay more for Dwayne Johnson.
Okay.
To play a secondary character, I think the better value's on Bautista. That's just my 2 cents I'm throwing in there for that.
Better value. Wow. Okay.
Well, yeah, because the dude's really, improving himself as far as acting skills, and clearly he can do the physical aspects, and he's not bad at comedy.
I mean, okay.
I mean, that's what I'm going with for that. But Yumiko comes in, and Ryo has to inform her, hey, so we just, we're chilling, we're talking.
I mean, we do kind of know each other, so, I mean, this, obviously, it makes sense.
This is a professional courtesy. He let me know he's going to finish you tomorrow. Just letting you know.
Yeah, no more fucking around.
Yeah,
like all the last ones.
Like, he was just having fun, but you should have been made aware by the use of the string. He's not playing around anymore. And the thing about it is Umibozu goes all out in this last one because, we went from live ammo down to string. It was a downgrade.
It was a downgrade.
And now he's upgraded to a blue Optimus Prime, this giant-ass Mack truck.
Coming in like Majima from Yakuza, who has come in driving a truck several times throughout that franchise, trying to either take down a building or drive through a crowd.
He does wreck a building.
He does wreck a building.
He wrecks a building and he's going after Yumiko. He's going to finish this today. And he's got the machine gun out. They're running. It's played for comedy, even though this is a deadly situation.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it would appear that Ryo has been hit in the side.
Oh no, poor Ryo. This is a horrible situation. Yumiko, what are you gonna do about this? And the guy who's supposed to protect you is totally shot. And Ryo's over here like, no, you have to do this.
Here, take my gun. It's totally cool. I know you're not really firearms trained because you're just an actor, but take it anyway. Well, I can't use it. I don't know how. Pretend it's your ghost boyfriend. Like, what? That was a weird thing to motivate her. Like I would have said something like, pretend it's the thing you fear most, or pretend it's the person who killed your dead boyfriend.
That one sounds a lot more plausible.
Like, I thought that's what he was about to say, is like, no, pretend you're shooting your ghost boyfriend who's about to drag you to hell. Like, really, man? That was your draw right there? That was the best you could use to motivate her?
Well, apparently he knows her better than we do because it worked.
Yes.
So, all right.
It's the very sitcom. We have to, we're at the 18-minute mark. We got to wrap this up. That worked. It motivated her, and she managed to somehow shoot her own locket in the process.
You know what? Anime. Okay. So shooting the locket means, all right, congratulations, good job. You have destroyed the thing that is basically the barricade to you being able to move forward in your life.
You have destroyed your dead boyfriend's Horcrux. You can live for yourself now.
Oh, by the way, I wasn't really shot.
And Umibozu's a fan. We set this up at lunch yesterday.
I hope she feels like she really wasted her money.
I hope, I kind of got the same feeling. It's like, no, like, if you have a death wish and both the guy who's protecting you and the guy who's been hired to kill you are in on it, this is kind of a free payday.
A little bit. Like, does he walk away getting paid? He doesn't say, like, oh, you've already paid me, and, well, no refunds, bye.
I don't think that Ryo is above, like he did in the boxing episode. I know I keep going back to that. I don't think he's above ripping up a paycheck stub for the sake of trying to get points towards Mokkori. But at the same time, Ryo now has another mouth to feed there at his apartment. I don't think he's that stupid to turn down a paycheck.
Well, no, see, it's the studio that was paying for him, right?
Right.
But it was the actress who paid for Umibozu to murder her.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, I hope that she feels like she really got ripped off by Umibozu, who just turned around and saved her life rather than murdered her.
Well, I think when you think about it that way, Ryo tells Yumiko, hey, Umibozu was actually a fan too, so he was never really gonna kill you.
Yeah, that's why when we dropped that studio light over your head, it totally was never gonna hurt you. I don't know why you were scared of it.
But you see there, that's Umibozu definitely taking a paycheck, because he's told to kill one of his favorite actresses, and he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to do a really good job of faking it. Up until the string day. String day, I had bills due, I had a car payment, I had to buy my surplus of bazookas from Costco. There were other things that needed to be taken care of that day. So that day, I'm phoning it in. Which I think is the only time we're ever going to see Umibozu phone anything in, was that string.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, yeah, Ryo gets paid by the studio, but you imagine if the studio is to find out that the only reason they have to pay Ryo is that their main actress paid somebody else to kill her, wouldn't that be some kind of weird breach of contract or something, like going against the studio? Like, you're putting the production in jeopardy?
Well, I guess if she's putting the production in jeopardy, that's entirely possible.
And plus,
yeah.
Other people were being shot at.
She would definitely be liable for causing all of this to go down. Yeah, a lot of other people could have gotten hurt, and definitely should have gotten hurt. That was a lot of live ammunition just flying around on that set.
So thankfully, we can report this week, no murders.
No murders, yeah.
Yeah, a murderless
Shockingly, despite the fact that a bunch of actors were wielding weapons with live ammunition in them.
And once again, yeah, that's just, we didn't realize that. Like, I had forgotten about this episode, that portion of the episode. I remember, oh yeah, the actress is trying to kill herself. Okay, fine. But that part.
Yeah, the live ammunition part.
That's the part that's going to do you in. Now, next week, we're going to have more Kaori there from the jump. Mm-hmm. So that's going to make me feel a lot better, because I felt like we didn't have as much of a balance there. Because despite Ryo being lecherous this episode, the most he did was he stole the poster, he went through the lingerie, and he got in a boob grab there at the very end.
He did get in. He managed to get in an assault.
One assault.
Which is pretty low for Ryo. Pretty low number
and
for
I
Ryo.
hate having to admit this, but it's kind of funny how he did it. The whole, because up until that point, you think he has been shot.
Right.
By Umibozu, which is a thing that does happen. Umibozu can and does injure Ryo in the future. Mm-hmm. But in this one, it's like, I'm reaching for your face. I can't reach it. What am I touching? And it's the boob, and it's like...
This doesn't feel like your face. Is this your face? It's a boob. Well, I guess I'll take that.
I need a kiss. Oh, come here. I'm dying. And then it's at that moment she realizes it's fake blood. So that's the one thing that he's done that has not gone punished. Mm-hmm. That it's the one. Up until that point, everything else has been met.
She's mostly just so shocked by it that she's just like, I'm not even registering that he just grabbed me. I'm just shocked that he's not even dead.
The only thing that's missing is like the realization, and then like slapping and being like, you ass.
Yeah.
You know, that I think would have rounded it out a bit better.
It's what I would have done.
For sure. And you would have been within your rights.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, if Ryo was a real person.
Yeah, which
and
he's
not an anime character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is the nice thing about this episode. The anime is escapism.
Yes.
It's not like reality where things are a lot worse.
Where live ammunition ends up on sets and people do not make it out so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
Oh man.
It won't be that bad next week. We promise.
I hope nothing in the news happens.
Yeah, hopefully nothing about next week's episode
just
is
suddenly
reflected
ends up
in
in the news within the next week.
Fingers crossed.
So on that note, come back next time when we cover the 7th episode of the TV series, A Gunshot to Set the Heart Aflutter, Sad Lonely Girl.
If you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 6th episode of MokkoriPlay, and if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna make sure Josh can't see his daughter.
Wait, what?